My favorite example of that is the Three Stooges, with Moe, Larry, and Curly getting hit on the head all the time without any problem. There are clips where they get hit by propeller blades. There are clips when they get punched in the head. There are clips when they run into walls, and they're fine. And that misconception from childhood carries itself over into the adult media as well. We can think about movies such as Rocky, where Rocky gets hit in the head many, many times, but he always gets up, and at the end of the day, he's fine. We could think of movies like Regarding Henry, where the medical profession can look at Henry's wife and talk about a bullet in the brain and tell her that her husband is so lucky that the injury was only to the temporal lobe, and if you're going to have a brain injury, the best place to have it is the temporal lobe. We could look at movies where people are in a coma and they miraculously wake up, and you don't have this slow process of waking up from that injury, but they wake up all at once, and people think that's really what happens. There are other movies where people get hit in the head and they're on the ground, and a police officer will come by and they'll say, "Are you okay?" And they wake up and they look at them and say, "I'm fine." And the police officer will say, "She's fine," and they send her on her merry way. There are other movies, Disney type of movies, where people or characters with brain injuries are portrayed without any problems at all. So we see that all over, and then the public starts getting the following misconceptions. Number one, you could be rendered unconscious and you'll have no problem. Number two, you could wake up without a problem from a brain injury if you're in a coma, without any difficulties at all. You have portrayals of people having repeated concussions, again, and we see that in popular sports. Portrayals of people with, not portrayals, but real life examples of athletes who get multiple brain injuries and they go back to playing again. Unfortunately, I don't believe in many cases that they should, but they're allowed to, and they seem fine. So this is what the American public sees, and it gets incorporated into their thinking, and it then causes other problems. And we see these problems from a poll that was taken, a Harris poll that was taken many years ago by the Brain Injury Association. At that point in time, it was called the Head Injury Association. And they found out some very interesting things by this study that they did. They found out, number one, that people think of a head injury as being less serious than a brain injury. So we've learned that how you term the injury is important in people's conceptions. And the Head Injury Association, as a result of this, I think, actually changed their name to the Brain Injury Association to convey the seriousness of the injury. So we don't talk about head injuries, we talk about brain injuries because it conveys a much more serious feeling to members of the public. We learned that people don't see the invisible injury, so that when they talk about brain injury or they're asked to identify people with brain injury, what they do is they identify people who have physical injuries. And we know that a brain injury is not necessarily somebody who is talking funny with slurred speech. It's not somebody who's in a wheelchair, and it's not somebody who walks with a cane. But when you ask members of the public to identify people that they know who have had a brain injury, those are the individuals that they identify. So there is a popular misconception that I can tell if a person has a brain injury by looking at them. And that is a horrible misconception, because we do know that it is an invisible injury that can't be seen. And that's one of the greatest burdens and problems that a person with a brain injury has, is people don't understand that they are injured, and they look at them and they look fine. So that's something that we've learned from the Harris poll.